Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, the Phils took the series from the Cardinals, but it did not come without its fair share of injuries for the Phils. Ranger Suarez goes down. Brandon Marsh goes down. What are the latest on those injuries and what kind of was the overview coming out of this series? Also, we'll get into the Taijuan Walker situation. He did not pitch well again last night. What do you do? Is the London trip a chance to make up for that? Certainly possible. And the return of Rhys Hoskins to South Philadelphia. How should fans handle it? Well, we'll get into all of that on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Thank you so much for checking us out. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. Really appreciate it. And today's episode is brought to you by Supply House. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to get parts fast. Shop for your next plumbing, h-vac, or electrical job and get fast shipping from coast to coast at SupplyHouse.com. So, first and foremost, over the weekend, the Phillies won 2 of 3 from the Cardinals. They were actually really close to the sweep. Last night, they had a couple of really good opportunities. They lose in 10 innings on Sunday Night Baseball. We'll talk about that game in a second. But the most important thing to me to come out of the weekend, like winning the series, great. That is obviously number one priority. But the Philadelphia Phillies experienced a couple of potentially problematic injuries. I mean, all injuries are problematic, but these are certainly interesting ones. First and foremost, I feel like I've said first and foremost twice, have I? Anyway, Ranger Suarez's health is the primary concern for the Philadelphia Phillies right now. In Saturday's start, he took a line drive back off. It looked like his arm for a little bit or his wrist. And if you watch it slow motion, it kind of looks like he catches his thumb on his throwing hand. He almost tried to catch the ball barehanded. Not that he was trying to do that. It was just hit so hard. It was like 106 miles an hour. He left the game immediately. Now, in typical Ranger Suarez fashion, he fielded the ball throughout the runner. But he left the game immediately. The Phillies went to a bullpen game. The bullpen actually was huge in that win on Saturday to help them win the series. But Ranger Suarez was diagnosed with a left hand contusion. X-rays were negative, which is a great sign. Definitely thought he was going to end up having something broken in there. Like, you don't wear 106 like that and not have something break or something serious. But it sounds like he avoided serious injury, Ranger Suarez did. Now, with that being said, I would totally understand if the Phillies are going to give him a day. He was immediately out of the game. He seemed to be in significant pain. I don't know what type of bruising or swelling he's dealing with right now. He may have to miss his next start. That will be complicated for another issue, which we're going to talk about in the second segment, which is dealing with the Taijuan Walker situation on the mound. But it sounds like Ranger Suarez got out of this one rather lucky. The Phillies won another one of his starts, by the way. They're 11-1 in his starts this year. He did not record the win because he did not go deep enough into the game to do so, but he did leave with the win, and the Phillies would not relinquish the lead in that game 2 against the St. Louis Cardinals. So, yeah, hopefully he's back. He's scheduled to pitch Saturday in London. And it doesn't seem likely that he'll make that start. Just guessing, right? I'm not hearing anything. This is not, someone told me something I can't tell you. My guess is normally, when you see a guy removed from a start for wearing one back off his pitching hand, and he's in that much pain, you're probably not going to see him pitch a handful, no pun intended, a handful of days later, though. You're just not going to see it, even with the extra rest. I'd be surprised if he makes that start. So my guess would be it's Spencer Turnbull that's going to throw on Saturday for the Philadelphia Phillies in London. I don't know how long he can go. It could be a bullpen game where he goes 3 innings and then you just go bullpen the rest of the way. Not sure, but we'll keep an eye on that. And we're going to talk about the Taijuan Walker issue that deals with that Ranger Suarez situation in the second segment. But another injury that just happened last night that we don't have much info on is Brandon Marsh. So at the time of recording this, it's just a little bit before 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday morning. Brandon Marsh has a hamstring strain. it's the same thing that Trey Turner has been dealing with, and he's been out 6 weeks. Well, projected 6 weeks. He's been out about 4.5 now or something like that. 4, maybe even. So he went out on like May 6th, I think. So it's June, 3rd. Bottom line is it's not good news for Brandon Marsh, or at least it doesn't seem like. Now, here's what I will say. He's day-to-day is what Rob Thompson said until they get more information. So I guess that's somewhat positive. But remember, Trey Turner was day-to-day, and then they got a little bit more information, and it was 4 to 6 weeks. And we're like, oh, where in the world did that come from? So I wouldn't count on this being a day-to-day injury. I would expect that it would probably be a little bit more time missed, but the hope is it won't be. I like to err on the side of caution, and caution in this case would probably be a couple of weeks absence for Brandon Marsh. Again, not reporting anything. These are all conjecture based on the information we do have. The only information we have, Ranger Suarez, x-rays negative, left hand contusion. Brandon Marsh, hamstring strain. Day-to-day is what Rob Thompson called him. Said we'll get more information on that. So those injuries are going to be interesting. I mean, obviously the Ranger Suarez one is big because he's been so good for this team, and the rotation has been the calling card of this Philadelphia Phillies baseball club and why they've been so good to start the year. Brandon Marsh is interesting too because the outfield has become a bit of a problem spot for the Philadelphia Phillies. They're not really getting production out of Castellanos or Rojas or Whit Merrifield when he's out there, or Christian Pache outside of the odd 2-hit game every once in a while. It hasn't been a very productive outfield. And Brandon Marsh probably has had the stretch where it has actually looked like production the most consistently in the outfield. Now, he got a little cold there, but he started off like the first month and a half of the season. He was red hot. He was playing amazing. So there's an argument to be made that Brandon Marsh is potentially the outfielder you can count on the most for offensive production right now. And now you don't have him, at least for the time being. I doubt he'll play today. It's day-to-day, and he just got hurt yesterday and immediately removed from the game, rounding second, and kind of pulled up and might have just tweaked something. Whatever the case, they're going to be cautious with him as well, I'm sure, but it leaves the outfield in a weird spot. So I guess Rojas has got to play every day in center, unless you're going to move Whit Merrifield back to the outfield, but that's complicated because Trey Turner is not available, and Edmundo Sosa had like a little tweak of something over. Now, his isn't anything crazy, but you have the injury bug starting to bite you a little bit. And if you've got to play Rojas every day in center field and Pache every day in left, and Castellanos in right, and Whit Merrifield's got to help out in the infield so Sosa doesn't get tired while Turner tries to return, you're getting a little thin. And I know you could always do like if you put one of these guys on the injured list, you could call somebody up. You still have like Cody Clemens is still part of this equation. How much can he potentially help you? Like, there are things you can do to mitigate this, but you can only survive this stuff for so long. And the hope is that these are not extended absences for Ranger Suarez and Brandon Marsh. And you hope that Trey Turner's back soon, because that really opens up Whit Merrifield as a utility guy. I know Whit hasn't been great this year. I know. But I'd still prefer him than somebody getting called up that hasn't played at the major league level so far this year. And so obviously someone besides Cody Clemens. It's just, when I look at this, my immediate reaction to the Philadelphia Phillies situation right now, health-wise, is look at Atlanta. They lost their best pitcher and their reigning MVP of the National League for the entire season. They're done. They're not coming back. Season-ending injuries for both of them. And the Phillies are nowhere near in that spot. So by comparison, the team that's probably got the best chance to chase you down in your division is way worse off. And there are a lot of teams in baseball that have had way worse injury luck than the Philadelphia Phillies. This just feels like a time where it's starting to wear on them a little bit. They need to get healthy. They need to continue to win baseball games. They're kind of in a weird back and forth stretch. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games. I'm not too worried about it yet, but this is like a concerning spot of the season. It feels like it could be a turning point. Either the Phillies shrug this off and guys get back quickly and the guys who step in for them carry the rope and do what they need to do, or you start to get a little thin. You don't have guys out there that play every day. They start to become more exposed. You don't play like as good of a team as you are. You start to come back to the pack a little bit. As of today, the Phillies are no longer the best record in baseball. That belongs to the New York Yankees by half a game, but that's fine. I'm not overly worried about that. Like, that's not even on the radar yet as a concern. Just for proof of point, they are falling back to the pack a little bit more, rather the pack's catching up to them. Not in a bad spot. Not worried about the team overall. You won the series. That's all you can ask for. Continue to win series. But just concerns with the injuries should be, they're not zero. Okay, they may be minimal. They might be lower than middle, but yeah, it's something definitely to take note of. Coming up next, we're going to talk about something that you should have taken note of weeks ago, and we've been talking about for what feels like weeks, and that's Taijuan Walker's performance. So we'll break down last night's game in a little bit more detail and what wasn't working for Taijuan Walker and why a change might be needed in the rotation. So we'll get into that coming up as we continue Locked On Phillies. First, though, we were talking about Supply House, our title sponsor for today's episode, and you can get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, electrical products online, all of that great stuff. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Maybe you're someone who likes to do it yourself, and you just want to get stuff that you know the pieces are good and they can be delivered right to your house. Sure. Maybe you own your own company and you do HVAC work or electrical work or plumbing, and that's your full-time gig. You need to find a better supply for how you're getting your equipment. Well, you can shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast with supplyhouse.com. You need help with an order? You can get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every single time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining supplyhouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, discounts on every order. It's a great deal if you're going to be ordering from them a bunch. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/TM. and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. Let's deal with this Taijuan Walker situation, or I guess let's continue to deal with this Taijuan Walker situation because he was not good again last night. He gave up 4 earned runs in 3 innings to start the game. Now, he settled in a little bit more than that, but I don't really look at giving up 4 earned and 2 home runs, and you gave up a lot of solid contact. I don't look at that as a good day. I don't. That's not a step in the right direction. He just does not look right out there. And he did, it was a great point that I've heard from a couple people. I know I've heard it from Matt Gelb, and I read it in one of his articles in The Athletic. The dude doesn't have an out pitch right now. He can throw a fastball by somebody. He can get a splitter to work every once in a while, but when you go to the splitter and you leave it up, that ball gets hit hard. It is a pitch that needs to be buried, and he can't control it right now. He doesn't have a great feel for it. He has it every once in a while, but not consistently enough to make a difference. And that could leave you feeling very, very vulnerable, especially when your fastball has dropped in velocity a little bit. His 2 big pitches are not working right now and not in good shape. And he doesn't seem like he's feeling good about his performance. He really shouldn't be. I don't know totally where the team is at, though. So here's why this is interesting. And last night, credit to the Philadelphia Phillies for fighting back, down 2-0, down 4-2. Just keep finding ways to come back and tie the ball game. Unfortunately, they lose in extras. It wasn't the best offensive performance for the Philadelphia Phillies, but that's going to happen. They won 6-1 on Saturday. They took care of business on Friday night, and they ended up taking down the Cardinals 4-2. Nothing crazy offensively for the Phillies in a while. They haven't scored more than 6 runs since the 25th of May, which you might say it's only June 3rd. Well, for this team, that is a long time. And outside of that one, it was back on the 22nd. So I don't know. I think the Phil's offense is fine. I think the team is fine. They're going to continue to win games. They're just kind of in this weird malaise right now, this weird stretch where you're not playing your best baseball. You got a couple too many guys either cold or injured, and they'll come out of this. They're still going to be fine. They're still going to win consistently. They're still way above 500. They're 41-19, which by my calculations would be 22 games above 500, which by my baseball calculations would be pretty darn good. They're fine. But the Taijuan Walker situation, here's why it also factors into the Ranger Suarez situation too, right? So let's say you're one of the people out there, and I'm one of these people, that say, I've seen enough of Taijuan Walker right now. Go to the pen, put Turnbull in, and he starts now and figure out what you want to do with Walker. There are a couple things that stand in the way of that. First, if Ranger Suarez does indeed have to miss a start because of taking a line drive off his throwing hand, or multiple starts, I mean, we don't know yet the time frame for him, Spencer Turnbull is the most likely option to fill that void. He can't pitch for Ranger and then also make a start for Taijuan Walker. That's just like, you can't do that. You need multiple pitchers. So it's not going to be Spencer Turnbull until you get the Ranger Suarez situation figured out, because say what you want about Taijuan Walker, but he's available and you can't replace him over replacing an injured player. It just doesn't, you don't have that luxury right now. The hope is Ranger Suarez pitches Saturday in London. If he doesn't, the hope is he pitches the game after that. And then that's a time where you can make that change. Taijuan Walker's next scheduled start is Sunday in London. So it's not really the hope that he makes that start. You almost hope he doesn't with the way he's been pitching lately. But the reality is he's probably going to have to make that start unless the Phillies go with a bullpen game. And you might have to do that with Turnbull if he's not stretched out to start at this point, because it's been a while since he's made a start. It's a really tough time to have Ranger Suarez unavailable, because it would be a simple fix to just say Turnbull in, Walker to the pen. Sorry, buddy. Them's the breaks. You haven't been pitching well, but now you kind of can't get him out of the rotation. So one more start. Now, I did say 2 starts ago that I would give him 2 more starts, which is the one yesterday and the one Sunday coming up in London. So I guess it's forcing me to stick to my original time frame for when I'd evaluate him, but I've seen enough. I would go Turnbull over him tomorrow. And that doesn't mean Walker's done for the year. Doesn't mean cut him or trade him. You're not going to trade him, by the way. There's no reason to trade Taijuan Walker. Like, one, people aren't going to want the contract. 2, you're going to have to eat a lot of that money. 3, he's not going to hurt you in the postseason because he probably won't throw. It's trading just to trade a guy, and it doesn't really make your team better right now or anything. It just doesn't make sense to do. So Walker's here for the long haul, fortunately or unfortunately. He hasn't been pitching well really for most of this year, but especially lately. I would make a change. Ranger Suarez's injury makes that tough to do right now, because Turnbull will probably have to start for him. So that's why I'm saying, like, the Phillies aren't in a bad spot, but they're in kind of a precarious one right now, where I worry about a couple things starting to roll the wrong direction. In the grand scheme of things, they're going to be still a great baseball team, but the margin for error gets much slimmer the deeper you get into the Major League Baseball regular season. And the Philadelphia Phillies right now are at a spot where it feels like their margin for error is visibly slimming. So take that for what it's worth. That's how I feel about the Taijuan Walker situation. One more thing on that before we move on. Anyone who's saying, the Phillies are dumb for putting Taijuan Walker in the rotation over Spencer Turnbull. The Philadelphia Phillies did not choose Walker over Turnbull. Walker was always going to be in the rotation. In fact, if he doesn't go down, Turnbull never even gets a chance to start. So Walker was always going to get a spot. There was a conversation at the time among sports talk radio hosts, podcasters, like fan base, between Christopher Sanchez and Spencer Turnbull. Now, Sanchez has been really good, so I'd say that they made a justifiable decision at that moment to move Turnbull to the pen and keep Sanchez in the rotation. But now you have to reevaluate. Now's the time to have that conversation about Taijuan Walker, and I got to be honest, I'd rather have Turnbull out there. I think pretty much everyone else in this fan base would as well. It'll be interesting to see how they handle that over the coming weeks. Coming up next, we're going to talk about, we haven't previewed tonight's game at all yet, and it's a big one. Rhys Hoskins is back in town, so we'll talk about the Philadelphia Phillies matchup with the Milwaukee Brewers. We're only going to run through game 1 because I want to give some love to Rhys before we dive too deep into the series, but we'll definitely talk about game 1 of the series with Milwaukee. It's a big series, too. All of that coming up as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On Phillies. And let's talk about Prize Picks before we do that, because with Prize Picks, you could turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make a Prize Picks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. It's so quick. Like by the time I'm done this ad read, you could have made a Prize Picks lineup and you could have set yourself up to make some money. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stats projections and you're locked in. You might be looking for like some good promotions. Well, Prize Picks has got you covered every week. From lowering select player stats projections on Tuesdays, which increases your chance of getting a win, to getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. Hey, it's a great way to start the weekend. If you lose, you get your money back. Cool. Prize Picks is doing it all. They're America's #1 fantasy sports app. They got over 5 million active members. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. And you guys can compare winnings. You could talk about what numbers you like. All of that is really great. So go ahead and check it out. You can also now win up to 100 times your money with baseball-only lineups on Prize Picks if you submit a winning lineup featuring 4 demon squares. Check out the app. Those are really cool. You'll cash in big time on the biggest moments of baseball's early seasons. Like boosted odds, basically, is kind of the similar thing. But it's great to check out Prize Picks. You have to do this. They're amazing. And you download the app today, use code LOCKEDONMLB. You get a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today, use code LOCKEDONMLB. You'll get a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more or pick less. It's that easy. All right, well, an old friend is back at Citizens Bank Park tonight as the Brewers take on the Phillies. There was some thought that Rhys Hoskins might not make it back. He was injured. They weren't sure if he was going to make the trip to Philadelphia. Well, he's available and ready to go for his return tonight. The Phillies will play 3 against the Brewers, 6:40 p.m. first pitch. The pitching matchup, Zach Wheeler faces off against Bryce Wilson. Wilson's actually been pretty good this year. Righty, 3.19 ERA, 3-1 record, 1.23 WHIP. Zach Wheeler's been outstanding. He's the Cy Young favorite. He's got a 2.32 ERA and a 0.95 WHIP. But like Wilson's been pretty good, and Milwaukee's been pretty good. They're 13 games over 500 themselves, 36-23. They're currently leading the National League Central, I believe. Let me double check on that. I wanted to make pretty sure. Yeah, they are. They're the 3rd best team in the National League. The Cardinals, who you just played, are 7 games back on them. So just wanted to double check. I'm not as caught up on the NL Central as I probably should be, but I'm an NL East guy. What do you want me to do? Sue me. But anyway, the Brewers are a good team. They have a good pitching staff. They create good offense. They almost get in good fights. What happened yesterday, Tommy Pham and William Contreras went at it a little bit between the White Sox and the Brewers. So the Brewers are going to come in here fired up. And Rhys Hoskins is going to be fired up to be back at Citizens Bank Park. It is his first return to Citizens Bank Park. And actually, it'll be his first game playing at Citizens Bank Park if he does play tonight. We don't have a lineup yet. But if he plays tonight, is in the lineup, it'll be his first time playing a game at Citizens Bank Park since the World Series. Because remember, he went down to spring training last year, blew out his knee, was done for the year. He never got a farewell tour. And it was a great point by Ray Dunn, who is a producer on middays on 97.5 The Fanatic on our station. I heard this from when I was driving home today about how we didn't really get a goodbye. And he didn't really get a goodbye. There's not a lot of closure with the Rhys Hoskins situation because his final year, he was injured for all of it. And you thought you're going to get like a great contract year moment from him. And he'll at least get a chance, if he doesn't play well, to say goodbye if he's going elsewhere, or the Phillies see something that maybe they want to re-sign him, which didn't seem likely at any point, but still it was a possibility until he blew out his knee. Like, it sucks. The Philadelphia Phillies fans probably have mixed feelings about Rhys because, yeah, while they didn't win it all and he had his struggles defensively at first base and he was part of the end of that playoff drought, there were teams he was a part of that this city knew stunk and told him they stunk. And I don't think he was ever at fault for that, but he was part of it. So he's kind of the bridge between the years of losing and the years of contention that we've been in now. There's only one way to respond to Rhys Hoskins, right? It's the standing ovation, rousing cheer as the game, or as he's announced. And I'm sure the Brewers already put in with the league, hey, cut the pitch clock for this. He's going to get an ovation. He should get one every night because there's new fans in the stands every single night. I know people are going to want to applaud Rhys Hoskins. And then when the game goes on, yeah, you're not rooting for him to win or rooting for the Phillies to win, but he deserves the ovations he gets. He was a huge part of this team. He was a huge part of this community. He is an all-time, just like upstanding guy and had some all-time great moments. You think about the bat spike and everything. You think about the fights with the Mets. You Think about what he embodied. He was a huge part of the heart and soul of this team when he was here. He was Kyle Schwarber before Kyle Schwarber. And like, I'm not talking player-wise, I'm talking locker room-wise. That's an important guy to have. And I know there's still a lot of players and a lot of people in this organization that love Rhys Hoskins, and same with the fan base. So for that matter, I'm looking very much forward to seeing Rhys play at Citizens Bank Park again tonight. And I hope the fan base gives him the applause he deserves while still rooting for the Phillies to win, of course. That's all for today's episode. Thank you much for checking us out. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube daily episodes Monday through Friday. It really helps us out if you subscribe to the YouTube. Appreciate that very much. And I will talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.